here we go. Spawning in the bottom right hand corner of site Delta, we have our South Korean Protoss player, the blue Protoss, representing himself. Currently teamless, but an amazing player nonetheless. It is NightMare. And spawning in the top left hand corner of site Delta, going for a 15-15, we have the Italian Zerg player, the red Zerg representing Basilisk. It is Reynor. Here we go, 15 hatchery into a 15 spawning pool. Reynor is going for a very safe opener. For those that are curious about the 15-15, the numbering is referring to the supplies that you do throw down your buildings at. 15 hatchery into a 15 supply spawning pool. With this opener, you get your hatchery down before the probe arrives. It is very commonplace in this matchup for this scouting probe to get here before the hatchery starts and to deny the expansion and force the Zerg player to expand elsewhere at the third base or at the triangular third or the linear third location instead, and to just deny the hatchery and to make life a little bit more difficult for the Zerg, a little bit more uncomfortable. With a 15-15, you're able to throw down your hatchery that much faster, you get it on location, which means you have a much easier time defending against something like a Twilight Council opener. And I think this is a wise move. NightMare is a very aggressive player. He thrives in the mid game and he's not afraid to open up Twilight Council and open up Glaive Adept. So Reynor just playing very safely here. The downside of this build that Reynor is going for, or this opener I should say, is that it delays your gas. Your gas is going to be later, which means link speed is going to be delayed, which means you can't really punish the adepts, or it takes a little bit longer to punish the adepts. It takes a little bit longer to apply any pressure to the Nexus and the third base of NightMare. So this is a bit of a give and take. Reynor's opening up safely, and NightMare can be a little bit greedier as a result. I say greedier, can be more active with his units without fear of link speed for a little bit longer as well. What I do mean by that. As for now, we're just going to be droning up. NightMare getting into his own builds. Gate expand into Cybercore. Nothing too crazy. Interesting pylon placement here for NightMare. Show us the tech is going to be a Twilight Council. There it is. So because the pylon was thrown down behind or further back in the main base, as soon as we saw it, it's like, yo, it has to be a Twilight Council build. Just because if it's a Stargate, it's usually a little bit closer to the edge, just so it reduces the time it takes for the Oracle to get across the map, just to be a little bit more efficient. Here, we are more concerned with hiding the tech. So with this Twilight Council opener, this could be a couple of different things. It could be Glaive Adepts, it could be Dark Templar, it could be another more niche all-in as well, like, I don't know, a charge-based all-in or fast blink. Based on the fact that we have not pulled out of gas, I'm feeling a Dark Shrine. Speaking of, there it is. Dark Shrine has been thrown down. If you're curious, typically if you go for Glaives, you pull out of gas. We didn't pull out of gas, and so we do have the Dark Shrine on the way instead. We should be seeing a Robo alongside this. There is no Robo yet, which is interesting to me. There we go. Robo is now on the way, and with this Robo, we're going to be going for a Warp Prism, zooming across the map, warping in those DTs ahead of time, or warping them in, and looking to harass the bases of Reynor. Now, Reynor, with his Overlord Scout, he should be aware that there is some tech on the way, that it is not a Stargate. Otherwise, there'd be an Oracle. There'd be an Oracle moving out to harass momentarily, and Reynor, I'm sure, can piece together that it's going to be a more aggressive build from NightMare. At around the 4-minute mark, we want a Roach Warren. Around 4 minutes is kind of the safe timing for a Roach Warren, so Roaches come out just in time for either DTs or Glaive Adepts. Now, Reynor still doesn't know which one it is. Speaking of, just as we hit 4 minutes, there is that Roach Warren. So very crisp build here from Reynor. And again, this will keep him safe against aggression, against Glaive Adepts. But what about Dark Templar? Safety Spore on the way at the third base. Do we end up skipping Spores at the natural though? That's the question. Like, ideally, you don't want to make Spores if you don't need to. So Reynor trying to get a read on what's going on. DTs have already been morphed in. Again, the DTs were done a little bit sooner just because the Robo was delayed. That's why this build was a little bit weird from NightMare. It was a little bit odd. But the Spore finishes at the third. We do have a Spore here at the natural as well. The main base is exposed, so the Prism could go straight for the main, but based on the attack path, it looks like we're going for the natural, and Reynor does have detection. So far, really safe play out of Reynor, making sure that he dots his I's, crosses his T's. He's got his Roaches, he has his detection. DTs, they actually go for the Queens. Remember, Spores are stationary, and we can try to abuse that. Ooh, as we have to try to be on the edge of vision. Out of range of those spores. DT's back up. Now, what's important here, even though NightMare didn't really do any damage, even though he didn't kill anything, he still has the Dark Templar, and they can morph into Archons. And there we go. We have Archons now on the way, and Archon Drop Harass can hunt down Overlords. Archons shoot up, and we can go and hunt down Overlords. We can pick off some workers. We can even dance with the Queens. We have a lot of micro potential. That's the power of a DT opener, is that it isn't just DTs. It can also morph into Archons, and we can have some more complexity with this harass. Prism takes a lot of damage. Good target firing out of Reynor, focusing down that Prism. Observer has arrived. We're clearing up some creep. NightMare going to be rotating over towards that third. Oh, as we don't quite fully commit here. Reynor going to be pulling back. Clutch Transfuse keeping his Queens alive. Some of these Queens getting low though. Up. We lose one. One Queen goes down. We force a recall, and it looks like we do take down an Archon. A much better trade for Reynor. Very nicely done. Again, this Prism got far too low. Was zoned away. We could not save the Archons. A good lockdown there by Reynor. Looking at the trades, it was 9 Lings and 1 Queen for an Archon. More importantly, purely minerals lost from Reynor and gas lost here from NightMare. Now, NightMare is stuck at home. Reynor is freely saturating his third, getting to his fourth, and now we're getting to our tech of choice. So we didn't make any, we did make a handful of roaches, but we're preserving a lot of gas. We're going for a hidden spire. Now, this is the downside of going for an opener like this, is that once the Archons get forced back, how do we scout? Unlike we would with a regular standard build with an Oracle, we don't have an Oracle to go into the main base to get revelations off and to scout for hidden tech. But at the same time, NightMare is going for a push. We're moving out. Lings are here for a run by. We have a shield battery, we have a warp in to defend. NightMare holds onto his 3-base setup. And as he moves out, ooh, we do have quite a hefty army. Do we have any mutas? Okay, thankfully we have not invested into mutas, not yet. But Reynor caught a bit with his pants down. Doesn't have a lot of Roach Ravager ready for this. Zealots are going down. The Immortals trying to get on top of the Roaches as well. We force the Unsiege. Yeah, we deny the warp in. Big moment here for Reynor. He shuts down the Archon. If we just had one more warp in of units, I think we can break this army. It's so close. Reynor working with so little. The Miles! Ooh, do not connect. And NightMare is forced back. Ooh, that was a very tense moment. I didn't get to go into it, but Reynor, he was intentionally banking resources to invest into his mutas, which is why he had such a small army. It's why his army was not quite ready for this. He was waiting for mutas. Thankfully, he was able to defend in time, bring his Queens over. All the Miles! Was able to bring his Queens over. We have defended, and now we have delayed muta production, but now they're on the way. Same time, Zealot counterattack here on the right hand side. Good run by NightMare. Doesn't get the Queen, but will clean up some Lings. And potentially a Ravager. Oh, not quite. Not quite, as behind this NightMare is fully saturated on 3 bases. We're getting into Storm. We're working towards Blink. Blink is going to finish up just in time. We go for the contamination on the Forge. Okay. Forge is contaminated. The mutas shut down the Prism. But as I mentioned, thankfully Blink is about to finish and we will have an answer to these mutas. Ideally though, we would have Phoenixes and we do not have a Stargate. No Stargate and barely any Stalkers. And suddenly Reynor has map control. He's pushing out. We do have Storm. Storms are available. Ooh, they get thrown down on the Roaches. Mutas coming in from behind. They're going for the High Templar. They dive in and it looks like we do barely use the Storm just in time. The mutas are forced back. At the same time, the Roach Ravager army being shut down here by NightMare. Good defense. But we're being dragged out of position. These Immortals are exposed. We have to get the hell out of here. Yeah, the Lings are on the hunt. At the same time, mutas, they bust into the main base. Probes are going down. The Immortals, they get surrounded. Big catch there from Reynor. He's pulling NightMare apart. NightMare, he was holding his own. But the opener was lackluster. Here we bleed out too many Immortals, which means Reynor's second wave, his second push, is going to be that much stronger. The mutas, they even help cripple the economy here of NightMare. We're just amassing our army. And when we do push, there's only one Immortal to defend. We will have some Storms. But against enough for a Ravager, it won't be enough. The mutas, they come back in. Reynor setting the pace of the game here. The mutas being forced back. A good chunk of them did go down. It was 4 dead mutas, but now we have 9 more to join the flock to keep the pressure up. NightMare still not rebuilding or still not building up any stack defense in the main. There we go. As I say that, cannon is on the way. Now, static defense won't kill mutas, but all it does is buy you time. It buys you time to warp in defensive stalkers or blink over and respond with your anti-air army. That's all the static defense has to do. So now it's building up, mutas are moving out. NightMare trying to stabilize on 4 bases, but Reynor, he's maxed out. And we spoke about it because he was able to catch 2 Immortals earlier. The ground army is that much weaker. We dive on them. We dive on the High Templar. We get 1. High Templar goes down. Mutas, they do survive. They get into the mineral line, and here comes Reynor. There's plenty of Ling Bane. Plenty of army. Collapsing on a NightMare. Show us the storms. We were forced to morph in Archons. Jeez, we had like 6 High Templar, and now we're down to what, 1? 1 High Templar left. Ling counterattack hits the 4th. Mutas into the natural. Oh, that's a kill, not a cancel. That's a kill on the Nexus. And NightMare just can't keep up, not anymore. Again, especially when you play Muta, it's very momentum based. Very momentum based. And once you're able to get enough economic damage, once you're able to deny the base a couple of times, it's just so difficult to recover from that moment. Not impossible, but difficult. Now, what NightMare's hoping for and what he has to do is turtle. He has to just defend back at home, get a 4th base. If he's able to get a 4th base, if he's able to take a good trade, then he can bounce back. What I'm referring to is the storms. Like, the army from Reynor is still quite fragile. If the storms connect with the mutas, if the storms connect with the Ling Bane, NightMare can trade quite efficiently. He can trade very well. He just has to be in position. Banelings rolling in. Banelings are denied. At the same time, Reynor pushing towards that 4th base once again. He is spotted. Show us the storms. Big storms here on the Ling Bane. One Baneling connects with the High Templar. They do survive. Just barely. One High Templar gets biled. The 4th is denied. That's brutal. So that was a good trade from NightMare. You can see the supply is starting to close up a little bit. They are evening out. But without that 4th base, NightMare is all in. He's completely all in. It's all or nothing. He's pushing out across the map. The Zelts are getting surrounded. Yeah, the Zelts are being cleaned up. But we have the prison. We can reinforce. Reynor confirming that there is no 4th. Here we go. NightMare. He has a comparable army. Has comparable army supply. And Reynor getting ready for the full surround. They're coming in from every single angle. Going for the High Templar. Up. And the High Templar forced to morph into Archons. No more storms. But what about the Stalkers? What about the Immortals? Again, NightMare is completely all in, and he does take an army supply lead. Again, a lot of the supply for Reynor is in drones. A lot of it is in workers. We break through, we take down a base. Now, killing this hatchery is not good enough. We have to keep going. The longer this goes on, the better it is for Reynor. Reynor, he's reinforcing with more roaches. Again, because of the better economy, Reynor, he's remaxing, and NightMare has to keep going. He can't slow down. Boys are being pulled into the Stalkers. Good blink here protecting the Archons. One Archon goes down, the other still alive. We shut down all the drones. Roaches are falling. And NightMare, does he barely have enough? It looks like he does. And NightMare, he has done it. Blinking on forward. Shuts down the Overlords. Overlords don't matter as much. We shut down the Roaches. We're pushing in towards that natural base as well. We have reinforcing Archons. And with these Archons, that seals the deal. NightMare, he has done it. He was being pulled apart earlier. His economy was being crippled, but he doesn't need his economy. Not when we're going for an all-in. GG gets called, and NightMare will take game number 1. Whew. GG. GG, well played. Whew. Let's go. GG, well played with that. Oh. We are going to be settling in, and NightMare takes the first game. And again, just goes to show the tenacity here of NightMare, just fully aware that there was still a win condition for him. Again, even though he was being harassed, what we mentioned was that he was still taking some good fights with his storms. He was still able to shut down a lot of the Ling Bane that Reynor was relying on. Reynor, tech-wise, I should also emphasize, is that Reynor was taking up, while the all-in was happening, towards Broodlords. He had a greater Spire on the way, which means Reynor, he chose to skip Ultras, for example. He chose to skip Lurker Tech, for example. He was just going Ling Bane Roach Ravager into Broodlords, which can be an awkward transition. You need time. You need time to actually refine your army like that. So he was stuck with Ling Bane Roach Ravager, and he was spending his resources elsewhere to take up towards a different direction, not to bolster his current army. And yeah, good storms is what I is what I need to say as well. Really good engagements there by NightMare, really good trades overall. GG, well played. NightMare is up in this series and is one game away from knocking Reynor down. Now the pressure is on. Reynor needs to fight back here and now to force the ace match. Oh boy. And I do wish him the best here. Personally, as a caster, I want to see an ace match. Game 3, Papi. Game 3. Give. I'm greedy. I just want all the games. So we'll see if we can get that as we're loading in to Ghost River. Ooh, this is going to be a spicy one. So Ghost River is a very small map. Has a short rush distance by ground. Has the shortest rush distance by ground in the entire map pool. So all-ins and aggression is favored on Ghost River. Because of that, I mean, that applies to both players. If NightMare or Reynor wanted to be aggressive, wanted to go for some kind of all-in, then the map will help them. The map will favor them, and here we go. We're getting into game number 2 and spawning in the top left-hand corner of Ghost River, leading the series 1-0, representing himself, teamless but deserving to be on the team. It is NightMare. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Italian Zerg player, the Red Zerg, representing Basilisk. Down in this series, he has to fight back here and now to force the ace match. It is Reynor. Here we go. I'm catching up the chats. Wait, what? NightMare joined the team like 2 weeks ago, or did I hallucinate already? You might. It sounds like you're hallucinating. It sounds like you're hallucinating. You might be thinking of another player. Players that joined teams recently, let's think. Su, he joined DKZ like 2 weeks ago, so you might be thinking of Su. You might be thinking of Shin. Shin joined Gaiman Gladiators. You might be thinking of Bunny. Bunny joined Team Falcons. Are there any other Korean pickups? Rogue is still teamless. Trap is teamless. Did anyone else join the team? I guess Stats joined Twisted Minds. Kind of. Stats, he's kind of on Twisted Minds, so there's kind of that, I guess. I say kind of. I believe he's like representing them in WTL, but I don't think he's officially on their team. He's more of like a mercenary. So yeah, I don't I know you just might be thinking of someone else, but yes, NightMare is teamless. And as we see here, again, NightMare, it was last week or the week before where he 2-0'd Cure. That was last week. Last week, he 2-0'd Cure. And even here, he's up against Reynor. Like, NightMare, he's an amazing player. I do wish for the best for him. You know, I hope he can land himself on a team. I hope a team is able to find value in him. He's a great player. I do think that a lot of people overlook him, and he is overshadowed in the Korean scene, to be fair. He's overshadowed by Hero, by Classic, he's overshadowed by even Stats. But for Stats is different. Like, Stats is very charismatic. Stats is very charismatic. So is Creator. Like, Creator is like, you can empathize very easily with him because he's so emotional. Creator wears his heart on his sleeve. So I think a lot of people look to Creator and Stats even over NightMare. I think it's like the Cure problem. Like, something that NightMare and Cure have in common is that they're both not very active on social media. They don't really have like outgoing personalities. They're a little bit more introverted, it feels, and because of that, NightMare and Cure, they don't really have much of a presence internationally, despite like how good they play or how well they play. I think Cure, of course, I think his placements amongst the Korean Terrans helps him a little bit more, but I think a lot of people, like, when they think of the Korean Terrans, they look for, and they look to Gumiho and Byan and Maru. Like, to me, it feels like NightMare and Cure get overlooked. That's the smooch, man. Smooch. But here we go. We're settling into our game. It is going to be a hatch gas pool. Reynor forced to take the unnatural natural. We spoke about it, but in the previous game, because Reynor went for a 15-15, he was able to expand at his natural. Here, he went for a standard opener, which means you cannot expand at your natural. You have to expand elsewhere. The Oracle has arrived. It was a Stargate opener out of NightMare. Standard builds all around. Standard builds here as the Oracle. Oh, takes a lot of hits. Bit of a miss rally there, or mispathing from NightMare. Just running on into the Queens at the same time. Lings, they get across the map. Ooh, we picked up an Adept. Very nicely done. Adept does go down. Adept does fall. Overlord's going to be zoned away. Overlord is going to be zoned away. The Lings, they once again do collapse here on the pylon. Oof, and that's going to be a cancel. The Oracle forced back home. This is the power of a standard build, by the way. If you remember what I mentioned in game number 1, when it came to Reynor's opener, because of his opener, Link speed was delayed. Here, because he went for a standard opener, with Link speed, you can be that much more assertive, that much more aggressive. Reynor applying a lot more pressure, keeping NightMare busy back at home. NightMare is built up towards 3 Oracles. Lings, they dip in once again. And behind this, NightMare is going in towards a Forge and a Twilight Council. It's going to be a +1, I imagine, Blink transition from NightMare. Meanwhile, Reynor going for a standard Roach Warren timing. This was around 5 minutes, which again is a lot more standard. You don't need it any earlier than that if you're up against the Stargate opener. And Reynor's journey. We're building up, we're macroing. And here we go, Lings, they do dip in. Up. Do you get a probe? Lings, they do manage to find a probe here across the map. Not bad. Blink is on the way, so as we did mention. +1 and Blink, a very standard follow-up here from a Stargate opener. Here we go. So you see NightMare just defending back at home, applying pressure across the map. Again, just trying to be a little bit assertive. Now, these Stalkers, they may look quite vulnerable. Blink is not done, by the way, but that's what the purpose of these Oracles. Sorry, I should say the Stalkers look vulnerable. But that's why the Oracles are here. The Oracles are here to support, to make sure that these Stalkers don't get surrounded with stasis traps, with their Pulsar Beam. So the Stalkers are pretty safe and sound. They do come across the Lings, and Reynor has to respect them, has to back off. Reynor does retreat. Behind this is taking a 4th, droning up. We have an Infestation on the way, Hydra as well. I appreciate this. Reynor getting ready for Hydra, Lurker, Viper. He's ready for Hive Tech, for Hydras as well. Lings, they head towards the Natural. At the same time, a big lane run by here towards the left-hand side. Ooh, we get a kill on the shield battery. But we're not able to break this. Good defense by NightMare. And we're working towards Charge and Storm. Now again, this entire time NightMare's been stuck at home. Reynor has been enjoying a lot of map control. With that map control, that's why he's been able to be quite greedy, joining up to 80 and taking up towards Hive and Lurkers. Like, Reynor, he has the freedom to do so. That is soon about to change. Before we can get into Lurker tech, Storm is going to finish, and NightMare should be pushing soon. He should be moving out with Archons, with High Templar, with Storm. I believe that is going to be happening just before Lurkers are online, but we'll see. We shall see. As Lings, they do dive in, they do deny the 4th once again. Catching up with the chat. It's normal for a NightMare to live in the shadows. Zerg Overmind should invent Underlords. Burrowed into the ground, much more efficient scouts. True, true. Este Flamio. Lurker Den is finishing. Here's that War Prism. Now, with the War Prism, we can push. We can push, we can reinforce, we can juggle and save our units, of course, with that War Prism Micro. Now, I assume that this would hit first, but it looks like Reynor, he does complete his Lurker Den. He's still working on Lurker upgrades, though, so no Lurkers yet. Still just Ling Hydra. Do you have a Bailey Nest? Ooh, that's bold. That's greedy, actually. Reynor, he skips the Bailey Nest, by the way, which means if NightMare did push, I think he might just kill. Like, Storms are going to be ideal, and without Baileys, we can't really threaten the army or threaten the High Templar too much. But here we go. Lurkers are now on the way. Reynor getting away with cutting some corners. It's going to be 4 lurkers behind this. Rocks get knocked down. And by the time NightMare pushes, it's too late. The lurkers are going to be ready. Prism gets behind the mineral line. May not be pushing forward. NightMare, he has yet to scout. Yet to confirm the army composition completely. As Reynor is going for a Doom drop. Moving out with his own overlords towards the top left. Behind this double robo mortar production. NightMare, looks like we're turtling up. We're not pushing. Again, we're using the Prism not to reinforce, but to harass instead. So, yeah, static defense, we're turtling up. Cannons, shield batteries, fleet beacons on the way. We're just turtling up into Sky Toss. Okay. NightMare going full Protoss right now. He knows how to play Protoss. Let's go, as we do have a Doom drop here towards the left-hand side. Storm on the lurkers. Lurkers do reveal themselves. Oh, as Reynor, he accidentally did unload here outside of the natural, so it gave time to respond with the overcharge with the warp in. NightMare's now aware. Again, I don't think that was meant to unload out on the other side of the wall. I think it was meant to be inside. It's a little bit unfortunate. A little bit. Hopefully everything is okay, as I'm experiencing a little bit of latency. Everything should be okay on my end. Yeah, we're not dropping frames. Okay, good. There it is. Carriers are in production from the side of NightMare. Lurkers pushing forward. Spire on the way from Reynor. Let's go. Oh, I am having a bit of a lag spike though. If I do end up like lagging too much, and if I do impact the game or influence the game in any way, then I will leave. I will leave the game, of course. More than happy to. We do see Reynor rotating over towards the north side. We do see a massive amount of Lings pushing in towards that mineral line. Do we have a storm? We do hold on to the storms. There we go. Storm into the mineral line. Ooh, a lot of Lings going down. The probes do survive just barely. That was some very nice control there out of NightMare, saving those workers at least as many as he could. Only 4 workers go down. Lurkers, they have arrived. As Lings, they dive on the Nexus. The Nexus is going to be killed. We can't break through NightMare. We can't get on top of him. No, with a lurker-based army, but Reynor, he at least does kill the Nexus. We'll back off. We'll back off. We'll retreat. Prism still here towards the top right-hand side. Carriers, of course, were revealed, so Reynor has confirmation, and we're getting into a more heavy Skytils composition here with more carriers. Meanwhile, NightMare trying to expand, trying to refine his army. Reynor, he needs to be as active as possible and make NightMare work for these bases. Here we go, the Lings are coming in. They're going in for a counterattack. They do get a surround on these Zealots. A good cleanup here from Reynor. We shut down the Zealots and we will deny the 5th. NightMare forced to expand here elsewhere. Meanwhile, some Drop Lord Harass gets shut down. And as Reynor builds up towards Broodlords, if that's the direction we're going, or even with these Lurkers, Tempests are going to be ideal. Initially, we have Carriers, sure, but if Broodlords become an issue, then that's where we have to transition into a more Tempest-heavy composition instead. Speaking of, the Carriers are being dragged out of position. Do we have some Yoinks? We do! We get 1. We get 2. We could even get 3. Oh my god! 2, 3 of these carriers going to be going down. It looks like we did focus out one of those Vipers. That was a big pick off here from Reynor. NightMare caught out of position. Again, carriers on their own are quite vulnerable. They need support. They need Archons, High Templar, Stalkers. They need something to help support them. They're backline units. Otherwise, we can do this. As Reynor, he's trying to camp the production, trying to catch any kind of stray carrier. Okay, going for the caustic spray on the Nexus. Does force the overcharge. Stalkers are on the way. And we will bleed out a couple of Corruptors. One Corruptor. Meanwhile, back at home, Reynor, he's on 74 workers. He's on his, 6 base setup. 6 bases. The creep is okay. We're connecting all the bases. Very limited creep on the map itself towards the center. Very limited here as the armies will flash. High Templar get caught out. Oh, massive spine shots. 2, 3 High Templar go down. Big connections from Reynor. As with those lurkers, yeah, he shuts down every single High Templar. Gets a carrier as well. Rotating around, we have some reinforcing, some panic High Templar morphing in. Now we're committing into Archons. But yeah, NightMare, he still does not have the ideal army. He's still lacking. Still building up, refining himself. Overall, I do like Reynor's composition a lot more. His upgrades are lacking, but we're building on that. We have 2/2 air attack on the way. +3 melee. Now, what's important here is that NightMare, he can still threaten the army here of Reynor. Like, Reynor has to be very careful with how he engages. Especially now that we have Archons and High Templar once again. Now that we have the Death Bull of an army all clustered together. NightMare can take fights, as long as we're paying attention. Oh. Revelation though. Prism finally unsieging. Pushing in. Oh, but is going to be going down in that natural. At the same time, we cannot expand here towards the bottom left. NightMare, his 6 base is denied. Now, this is the other scary thing about this map. This map isn't just small, and it is... I mean, we're face to base here. We're in the same screen. It's a tiny map. Also, not many bases. Reynor has 6 bases. That's it. That's all we have. NightMare still has a base to expand to, a base to take for himself. But we have very limited resources on Ghost River. Because of that, this shouldn't actually be too much of a longer game, because we will run out of resources a lot faster to catch some of these workers. At the same time, Blink counterattack does hit the 3rd. NightMare, he responds in time. Does respond in time. Link does catch a probe, and once again, NightMare, he desperately wants to take the space. Can't quite pull it off. There we go. Tempest upgrades on the way. That's what Tectonic Destabilizers. I remember the names. And there it is, the first wave of Tempest. And with Tempest, now finally NightMare can push in. Finally, he can lay siege upon the site defense, the lurkers, the army, without bleeding out too many units. The dynamic does change with the arrival of Tempest. Up until now, Reynor, he's kind of been bullying NightMare a little bit. But Tempest, they go for the Viper. Oh! And they do get a kill. 1 Viper for 2 carriers, a better trade for Reynor. Not a bad pickup from NightMare, but still a better trade from our Zerg. Link round by coming in once again. Oh, lurkers are getting caught out though. Yeah, good chunk of lurkers go down, and that might just trigger a push from NightMare. Meanwhile, across the map, ooh, Ling Runby takes down a mineral line. 15 probes and the Nexus. The Cracklings, they cracked, and they can focus out the base. They deny the warp in as well. Nexus goes down. At the same time, we're trying to catch NightMare off guard. We do pick off 1 more carrier. Yeah, NightMare not paying attention. I mean, as a player, your attention is a resource, and Reynor is trying to spread NightMare's attention thin. So far, so good. Really nice moves from our Zerg player. The Runby comes in once again. And NightMare just unable to leave anything in position. Now, this is becoming very similar to Game 1. As a reminder, if you remember what happened in Game 1, NightMare was forced all in. NightMare, he was losing bases, he was losing economy. But NightMare did have a threatening army, and we could end up in a similar scenario. Ooh. As Reynor pushes forward, the Tempest come back around to defend against Lings. Like, what I will say, even though NightMare, he's losing probes, he's losing bases, NightMare is still up in army supply. NightMare can still take a fight and then push from there. Good storms on the lurkers. That Tempest count. How many Tempests do we have? 8 Tempests. And we're within range of the Nexus. We're going for it. Ooh, as the High Templar, they take a lot of hits. NightMare has to be more careful here. Has to respect these lurkers. Does it keep that Tempest alive? Does hold the overcharge. Fungal Growth's going to be locking down the army. We're going for the carrier. And we're down to 1 carrier left. 1 carrier remaining here for NightMare. More Corruptors on the way. The base goes down. At the same time, Ling's catching more probes. Oh, the High Templar overextending. Oof. We get 1 Stormer. Yeah, and look at how many Tempests we have. 11. Yeah, with 11 Tempests, we can shut this down. Fungal, not good enough. Does connect, but a little bit too far out. Lings are being shut down by Zealots. NightMare, even though he lost the center base, he's now finally taken bottom left so he can mine freely. NightMare did save most of his probes. And NightMare, he's got 154 army supply. Now, NightMare doesn't have a bank. So, when it comes to these trades on NightMare's half of the map, Reynor, he can sustain himself. Reynor's remaxing. Reynor, he's losing Corruptors, losing Vipers, but he's replacing them. NightMare can't. So, again, we're kind of turning this into an all-in from NightMare, where what you see is what you get, and he can't really replace this. He has to be as efficient as possible. Another Ling run by. And eventually, NightMare's just going to send it and pull the trigger and push on to creep. And the scary thing about Ghost River, because of how small this map is that Reynor doesn't have a lot of time to rebuild. Even though Reynor has 8, like, look at his bank. Reynor has a massive bank. There's no guarantee that Reynor can spend his money fast enough after losing a fight. That's the reality here. So Reynor, he wants like these more longer fights where he can like pick off 1 unit here and there and then back up. But Reynor, NightMare is putting the pressure on. Just being bullied back once again. Ling run by, depowers the cannons. Oh my god, the base is gonna go down. NightMare down to 1 mining base, by the way. Fungal does connect. The chain Fungal even. High Templar getting low. NightMare losing a base that still had resources, by the way. These Ling run bys have been brutal. Brood Lords are in production. How many Tempests do we have? 10. 10 Tempests are out. We focus down some of these lurkers. Fungal does connect. With the High Templar. Hitting another lurker. Gets a revelation up. Again, these have been some nice moments here for NightMare overall. He's slowly gaining ground, but we're waiting for like 1 big moment. 1 big attack. NightMare takes down a base, rotates over towards the north. Reynor again, he can afford to lose the base, doesn't matter too much. NightMare controlling this army is not easy. At the same time, Zealot Runway is coming in, finally going for his own counterattack. Now Reynor knows how it feels to deal with Ling run by. His Zealots, they come in, they're going for the Hydrogen, they force a big reaction. At the same time, we deny the center base once again. Hydrogen goes down, big pickup. I mean, we're working towards Broodlords now, so Hydra's not so important. So it's okay. And we're pushing on forward even further. Results are being cleaned up. They dragged out a lot of those lurkers. How many lurkers left? 4. 4 lurkers remaining. Now, the scary thing about that means that the ground army here for NightMare, yes, we still have to deal with Broodlords, but it's not quite the same. Ideally, you want a little bit of both. You want a couple of lurkers and broodlords as well. But lurker count's being reset. Okay, instead we're going into ultras. That's a good way to support the army, to complement it even. Being run by being set up once again. We do have some cannons in position. Only one pylon. Oh, we're going for the pylon. And it's gonna go down. Ooh, big pickup. The Artosis pylon. These Tempests still trading well. Broodlords are coming in. They catch an Archon. Nice pickup. Ultras are coming in as well. We do have kindness waiting. Oh, wait, never mind. We don't. Before we get a big fumble up. The Corruptors, they try to dive in as well. They go for the Tempest. Tempest getting very low. 2, 3, 4 Tempests going down. You can see NightMare plummet in supply, and we have 12 Ultras on the way. Am I blind? Yeah, there's no kindness plating, unfortunately. Not the best upgrades for the Ultras, but NightMare, he's running out of units. He's running out of units, running out of steam. Corruptors, they come in from behind. They take down another Tempest and another. How many Tempests left? 4. 4 Tempests remaining. And NightMare killing this base, pushing on through. It's a little bit too little too late. Zellarami comes in from behind, goes to the main. Ultra Cavern goes down. Ultra Cavern goes down. Zealots, they get into the main base. Reynor has to respond. And Reynor, he collapses on this. The Ultra, they get on top of the High Templar. And massive pickups. NightMare forced to recall. And now he's on the back foot. And Reynor, yes, he may have lost a bunch of bases and may have lost a lot of workers, but he can rebuild. He has remaxed. Reynor, he just burned through his entire bank. Remember when Reynor had AK? His bank is non-existent, but has an army. NightMare, less so. Here come those infestors. Show us the fungals, papi. Show us the neurals even as we neural the army. We collapse on the final force here of NightMare. GG gets called, and Reynor will tie up the series 1-1. We are going to the ace match. GG. Whew. GG, well played. It's what we all wanted. We get a game 3. GG, bye. We do get the ace match. We do get a game 3 here. And again, this map is brutal given that kind of game state. Again, you saw just how little time you had to react, how little time it took for Lynx to get across the map, to harass, to punish some of these other bases of NightMare. Reynor, he was pulling NightMare apart. When it came to NightMare, when he got up to his 11 Tempest count, it was quite impressive. Like, he was trading very well. And as I just mentioned, Reynor did end up burning through his entire 8k bank fighting NightMare. Did win in the end, but goes to show how efficient NightMare was being. But it still barely was not enough. Again, if only NightMare had a better economy. If only he had another base or two, right? If only the Lings weren't just eviscerating him and just crippling him economically and forcing him more and more all in. Do you have to criticize NightMare's SimCity and site defense a little bit? Time and time again, Reynor, he would like find the perfect pylon to focus down, the Artosis pylon, and would just focus it down and have an easier time harassing. Was able to, ensure that NightMare had no longevity there, and GG. GG, well played. Whew. Reynor does tie things up, and now we're going into game 3. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Oceanborn, we have the Korean Protoss player. South Korean Protoss, the blue Protoss, representing himself, currently teamless, but deserving to be on the team. It is NightMare. And spawning in the bottom, also in the top left-hand corner, we have the Italian Zerg player, the red Zerg, representing Basilisk. Tying up the series, forcing the ace match. Can he keep up that momentum? Can he go into the next round? It is Reynor. Here we go. Catching up in the chat. I remember, that's what I wanted to catch up on. I remember even typing in the chat that I would have picked NightMare up with my 50-member Discord if nobody picked him up. Oh, smooch. Pick him up, Papi. Pick him up. Deserves the support. Is the stream lagging? Oldmate is. Oldmate was. Yeah. Kind of. So, if you're curious, because the stream was lagging, it was like near the beginning of game number 2. I wasn't dropping frames on OBS or anything like that. It was my connection to Battle.net specifically. It was my connection to StarCraft that was unstable. Like the connection to Twitch and my internet, everything else was fine. So sometimes that happens. You know, Battle.net is not the most stable of doesn't have the most stable of servers anymore like they used to. Sometimes a little bit unreliable, smudge, but you know, at least it cleared up. And as I mentioned before, if there ever is anything major there, if I'm ever disconnecting from the server, then I will leave the game. More than happy to do so. It's all about the players. All about the players. As you see, Reynor going for a Hatch Gas Pool. Hatch Gas Pool, standard opener here from Reynor once again. He has just avoided the 15-15 ever since game 1. Do appreciate that. Likewise, NightMare going for a gate expand as well. Catching up. Do storms hurt your own guys if they are in the impact zone? Yes. Yes, they do. Yes, they do, which is why I think I remember the moment that you're referring to when NightMare had to storm his mineral line. But if you remember, he delayed storming his mineral line to pull his probes away to his gas, and then he stormed. And the probes, they barely survived on like red and orange HP. It was a sick moment. It's cool. But yes, storm does do friendly fire. We go. As once again, it's going to be a Stargate opener, just like the previous game. Standard build here from NightMare. We're going to be settling into our 3-base setup. Should be Oracle into triple Oracle into a 3rd Nexus. Meanwhile, from the side of Reynor, nothing too crazy yet either. We are loading into Oceanborn. Something that I should emphasize is that we have seen a lot of aggression on Oceanborn, and we've even seen from Reynor as well quite a number of Roach Queen based all-ins that can be quite effective on this map. But because it's the ace match of all things, I feel like we may just see some more standard play here. I don't know if it's the wisest of moves to try to risk it all on a 3-base all-in or even a 2-base all-in on Oceanborn. Especially if Reynor is experiencing some lag. I think someone in the chat earlier was saying that that Reynor was having some lag spikes in game 1 on his end, and that's why he struggled a little bit more. I have to eat my words. That's a Roach Warren. I'm like, you know, Reynor, I don't think... Oh, no, he gets scouted. Ooh, big moment here for NightMare. Gets into the mineral line, gets into the main base, and does get eyes on the Roach Warren. Behind it, 5 drones go down as well. And we force a cancel on the Roach Warren. Big moves here by NightMare. Aye. So, again, this Roach Warren was meant to be for a Roach Queen all-in. I was talking about it. It's very popular on Oceanborn. The reason why it's popular is because the to get onto the same point of elevation as this 3rd base, you can get there here in the center of the map. There is no kind of ramp. There is no terrain, or like the map itself doesn't have any natural defenses here at the 3rd. It is a little more vulnerable. So all-ins are a little bit more popular, and Reynor was planning for it, and Reynor has to change his mind, has to switch gears as he is scattered. And NightMare has a much stronger start here. Reynor, he of course spent resources not just on the Roach Warren, but on those 5 drones. Has to rebuild. Devs have arrived. Reynor, he is attempting to keep up. We have 6 queens on the map. Spore at the natural. No Spore at the 3rd. As the Devs are shading in. Ling's a little bit late to respond, but okay, we have plenty of Lings in the main base. We do defend, and NightMare does not commit. NightMare doesn't commit. We get a surround on the Adepts, though, and every Adept is going to go down. Not a single one shades away. Good cleanup by Reynor. Very nicely done. And now NightMare is forced back. That is a gateway explosion. It's going to be +1 in Blink, but that's 5 gates on the way. In addition to the 2 that we already have, that's going to be 7 gates in total. Interesting. We usually wouldn't double down on this many gateways. We'll see if we throw down another gateway. This could be an 8-gate 3-base all-in. Show me the proxy gate. I'm leaning on it. This looks like it's gonna be an AK 3-base all-in from NightMare. No Robo. There's no Robo, there's no Prism, no Immortal Production, no Transition, no other form of tech. No Temple Archives for Storm or Archons, no additional gases either. Yep, there's the 8K wave. So it's going to be an 8-gate all-in. This has been making a resurgence. This was very popular at the start of 2023. I remember Hero doing this quite often last year, at the start of last year. And then it fell off because people did it so much. You know, Classic divulged it as well. But we have seen this make a return. So again, it's 3-base saturation, no other form of tech, no transition. It's just a straight up all-in, mass blink stalker. Let's go. And Reynor, he skipped his Roach Warren. He didn't rebuild. He did not rebuild the Roach Warren. He's stuck on Lings. Hydrogen's on the way. Reynor, he's in trouble. He does not have a lot to defend right now. He only has Lings. No Roach Warren, no other form of tech, no Bailings either. The Lings are just falling left and right. Hydrogen, it's not even done. And this all-in is catching Reynor with his pants down. He was not ready for this. The Lings are shutting down some of these Stalkers, though. Not bad. We did miss some of those blinks. Reynor fighting his heart out. The Hydrogen finishes. Hydrogen is done, but here come the reinforcements. And that was 9 Stalkers going down. But we have broken the base. And we should keep pushing from here. Yeah, we should keep pushing. We have 7 Hydras in production. Reynor, can he buy some time? Even if he does buy time, the Lings are going down. The Queens are doing what they can. Hydras are amassing. Coming in from behind. We have Slowlots coming in to reinforce. Again, NightMare, he's completely all in with this, and with the help of the Slowlots. Can we push in? Again, they're tanking shots. The Oracles go down. Boys are being pulled. NightMare, he's running out of Stalkers. We are bleeding out a little bit here. But the Blinks are looking good. More reinforcements on the way. We shut down the drones. We're getting on top of the Hydras. And we've done it. NightMare, he's broken the army. Reynor, a little bit too greedy. Unfortunately, Reynor, he did not realize that it was a 3-base all-in. He wasn't ready for it. Because he canceled his Roach Warren, he had no Roaches to defend. Only Lings. And with that, GG gets called. NightMare takes the 2-1. Takes down Reynor and advances on into the next round. GG. GG, well played. Congratulations here to NightMare for taking the series 2-1. Does take down Reynor in the end. A big win here for NightMare. Again, Reynor was coming in as a favorite player. 100%. Reynor, he was the favorite player. I was speaking earlier about how NightMare gets overlooked more often than not. Does get overlooked by a lot of people, despite the fact that NightMare, he has beaten some of the best out there. He's beaten Clem, beaten Bjorn, recently beaten Cure, and yeah, even here, taking down Reynor as well. Again, I feel like he is overshadowed by Hero, by Classic more often than not. But NightMare, he's a beast in his own right. Congratulations, and my condolences to Reynor as he is knocked down in the round of 16. My condolences as NightMare advances on, and this has been quite a series. Let's have a look at the brackets. Let's try to catch up and figure out what has been going on. Let's go.